The following presentation has been brought to you by HSF Productions.
The Impromptu Wrestling Podcast with your hosts, Jeff and David.
Hey guys, welcome back to IWP, the Impromptu Wrestling Podcast. We're your host. I'm Tyler 006. Over to my left, as always, is my brother Damien. How's it going this week?
It's going really well, man. Can't wait to talk about some wrestling.
Of course. Before we get into the wrestling, I just want to add that, yes, we are coming to you a little bit late this Saturday. There were some technical difficulties last night during the recording process. We don't need to get into the particulars. Needless to say, we are cutting the YouTube version out of our content creation. We're going to stick strictly with the audio only podcast. Remember, you can get those podcasts wherever you get your podcasts from, be it Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all the others. So make sure you subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating, whatever your particular app lets you do. And we would be very, very appreciative of that. But just know that there is no longer a YouTube version of the show. Let's get right into the meat and potatoes, though. We got some Breaking Kayfabe coming up this week. We're also going to get into Being the Elite, AEW Dark as always, and of course, Wednesday Night Dynamite. So let's get right into Breaking Kayfabe. We have a few pieces of very, very interesting newsworthy items here. The one on the list, at the top of the list, is Thunder Rosa's future in wrestling. The news broke on Tuesday night that Serena Deeb has won the NWA Women's World Championship over Thunder Rosa. This led a lot of the dirt sheets and rumor mills and Dave Meltzers of the world to think that maybe Thunder Rosa is on her way out of the NWA. What are your thoughts on the Thunder Rosa situation, and where do you think she'll land?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, the photo that she posted on social media about, kind of leaving the question as to where she might go. And if you haven't seen that picture, maybe we'll post it on our website for you to check out. But there was a list of the three major companies, AEW, WWE, and NWA, with some question marks written on her body, as a kind of would you say it's a tease as to where it might be?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I don't know. I really feel like her future is going to be dictated on what she finds important in wrestling. So I'm sure she enjoys the wrestling side. It's why she got into the sport. But if she's in this for the money and the fame, then possibly she might go to WWE. But if she's looking for more of a company that's going to do well by her, then I think it's possible she might stay with AEW.
I'm just going to add one little nugget of information to this whole situation. If you've listened to the Thunder Rosa Talk is Jericho interview, she talks about how she offers fans to spend money and they can basically book their fantasy matches. She has her own warehouse somewhere in LA. She has a ring. She has a production crew. She has a bunch of guys and girls that you can book, basically, and you tell her exactly how you want the match to go, who is in the match, how you want the cameras set up, and everything. And I'm not sure what the costs are, but this is something that she does, and this is something that kept her afloat during the pandemic. And it's actually quite popular from what she's told Chris Jericho. I don't see WWE allowing her to continue to do that, especially since, as we're recording on Saturday here, tonight is the last night that everybody in WWE or under the WWE umbrella has to, do this on their own. This is their last chance. AJ Styles has already announced that his Twitch is going away. Paige says that tonight's the night. If you guys want to support me, if you want to support the channel, this is our last night. I want it to be a banger, so I'm expecting Paige to be on all night, and her channel is going to be blowing up tonight, I think. So I don't see WWE affording that luxury to especially a new signee such as Thunder Rosa. So I feel like WWE is out of the question. A lot of other people seem to think that WWE is the only answer to this question, being that she dropped the title to someone who is already hashtag all elite. There's no reason for her to drop the title since NWA and AEW have a working relationship. So that didn't really make any sense. That seems to be their thought process, but I just don't see WWE being a viable option for Thunder Rosa.
Right, unless she's in it for the money, then she wouldn't have to do her business there.
Perhaps.
But you're right, if that business is important to her, then that's probably not going to work with WWE unless she's going to cut them in on that. Yeah, I don't know. As a side note, though, like, what do you think Paige is going to be dressed up as tonight?
I don't know, but I'm
I
going to
think
tune
I'm
in
going
to
to
find
have to
out.
view. Yeah, I'm going to have to check it out.
We'll see you later tonight, Paige. In other wrestling news, Jake Hager was in action in Bellator MMA. He was involved in his third MMA fight, and it sounds, by the sounds of it, was a war. It was a battle right to the end. The pictures I saw, Jake Hager was looking like Rocky after the first Apollo fight. His eyes were all caved in and whatnot. But he pulled it out. He wins in a split decision. What do you think of Jake Hager forwarding his MMA career a little bit?
I think it's fantastic for him and his camp that he's in. I think this also helps his character on AEW because he remains the beast he is, and it just proves more that he's a fighter. So yeah, congratulations to Jake.
Yeah, that's awesome. And he was repping the company on his trunks. He had AEW on the front. I think he had some TNT logos around the shorts there. So yeah, good on Jake for repping the company and showing up. Like he just raised his stock so much. And our last piece of little news here was last Saturday was Impact's big show Bound for Glory. We had touched on it a couple weeks ago that The Rock was asked by Ken Shamrock to film a little induction video for him getting into the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame. The Rock said, no problem, I'll get it to you as soon as possible. And we got to see it on Saturday. It was a really sweet message. It was about 3 or 4 minutes long. It was very casual and informal. It looked like he just had an assistant pull up the phone and record him really quick while he was cutting this really sweet promo for his buddy Ken Shamrock. So it was really cool. It was really it was kind of a big deal to see The Rock being kind of Mr. WWE for his whole career. He's never worked anywhere else. To appear on a rival brand in Impact. So it's a pretty big moment in the wrestling world on Saturday.
Yeah, very cool that The Rock did that for his buddy Ken. And I know we've already said, congratulations to Mr. Shamrock. And we'll say it again. Yeah, it would be very, very different. I haven't seen any of the footage. It sounds like you have.
You bet.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what Mr. McMahon feels about all of that.
I want to
Or
know
does he have to say anymore?
I want to know if The Rock told him. Because Jericho talks about when he was going to do the match in Japan with Kenny, he called Vince and said, I have this opportunity. I want to run it by you. Are you cool? And he's like, of course, do what you have to do. I think it'll be great for you. You have my blessing. Now, The Rock is 50 times the megastar that Chris Jericho is, as great of a star that Chris Jericho is. So does The Rock feel he needs to ask permission to do this kind of stuff? I don't know. I'd be interested to know
Yeah.
if he called Vince to see what was up. But yeah, congratulations to Ken Shamrock. I think this is definitely his second Hall of Fame induction. He's definitely in the UFC Hall of Fame. I feel like he's in the Japanese Wrestling Hall of Fame as well, but that's for our viewers to let us know and fact check us later. So send us your anchor messages and tell me if I'm wrong. Congratulations, Ken, for getting into the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame. That's awesome. Let's get right into Being the Elite. This was episode 227, Dark Order Halloween Party. This was pretty much par for the course kind of episode for the boys. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It's actually fairly good. It had its funny parts. What jumped off the screen for you while watching this episode of Being the Elite?
Well, first off, I'm going to applaud your pun there, par for the course, considering we're going to talk a little bit about some Gatorade for sure. I really thought that the Young Bucks part was the best part of this week's BTE, just like last week. I feel like they're producing these parts of the show so well, with the music and the effects that they're doing in the video. I thought it was so cool. I thought it was so creative to have Matt have this iPhone that, when he takes pictures and he looks at them like back, that they're somehow showing him the future, and he's getting scared by what he's seeing. And yeah, I just thought that whole bit was really, really good.
Yeah, that bit really reminded me of a Canadian literature. What's the word? Icon. The Goosebumps book series. There was one book called Say Cheese or Die, where a kid finds his camera, and it basically, when he takes the picture, it shows how they're gonna die, and then they're the next to die, right? And so, being that it's Halloween weekend and it was kind of the Halloween episode, I wonder if they knew this, or if this is just a regular Halloween kind of trope that they went with. But I think it's really cool that kind of had some inspiration in something that I've read as a child. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I mean, there's a lot of Canadians on the roster, and
That's true,
any
yeah.
one of them probably could have said, "Hey, why don't you guys do something like this?" So,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
possible. I'd like to know the inside scoop on that one.
What did you like about this week's BT?
You know, I agree with you. That beginning part was kind of the best. I enjoyed the Dark Order Halloween Party. I like that they were playing off of what Private Party was doing the week before. That's classic Dark Order. The Silver and Reynolds get bounced out of the party. They're not allowed to come in. They're not on the list. So they're gonna well, screw you guys. We're gonna throw our own party, and it's a Halloween party. Of course, everybody's dressed up. Silver is a little over the top on this one. It was a little harsh on the ears to listen to this guy this week, but that's just Silver. My favorite joke of the whole episode, though, came from this bit, and it was the Stu Grayson walking in on screen wearing a Robin costume, and then them making the Stu Grayson, Dick Grayson, the Boy Wonder, Robin. Like it just all made sense. It really appealed to the comic book nerd in me, and I really enjoyed that. And I like how Evil Uno was just like, "Don't ever call him Dick Grayson." And Stu's the best. Stu's the best when it comes to these BTE bits. And if you've listened to the Brody Lee Unrestricted podcast, he talks about how like Stu never breaks. We all have our moments where we need to like hide behind the camera and laugh a little bit. Stu never breaks, and he proves it again as he's wearing this child's Halloween costume. I can only assume It was a great bit.
Yeah, or a woman's costume. It was very small.
It was very, very small. So yeah, that was a good bit. I enjoyed that. But let's talk about the BTE Championship tournament, the Gator Golf tournament. We had what was it? 3 more matches this week.
Yeah.
Everybody vying to get into that BTE Championship final. I mean, there were regular bits. We don't really need to talk about it too much, but specifically the Trent and Matt Hardy match, that was hard to watch. That was not Tiger Woods worthy golf going on there.
No, that was definitely me at Gilbert Plains Golf Course. From one bush to the next. It went a little bit long for me, but I'm really looking forward to the finals. And it seems like this is going to be a 3-way match for the final.
Yeah, it's triple threat.
And we'll have John Silver, Matt Jackson, and Trent in the final. And out of these 3, who are you thinking is gonna take the championship?
I mean, if they're doing this shoot, if this is a shoot, I'm gonna say Matt Jackson. But if they want to go
Based on his
kayfabe,
play up to this time,
yeah. But if they're going kayfabe, if they want to like make this a story that runs, they got to give it to Silver. Silver with that belt every week will be hilarious.
yeah, I never thought about it, but I just you saying it now, yeah, that they could do so much with it. And I could see them Silver throwing it in Brody's face that he's a champion and Brody's not. And yeah, there's so much. But yeah, if you based it on kind of how they played, yeah, Matt Jackson's probably done the best. Although this week he kind of shit the bed.
Well,
I want to say there was one that was right in front of the Gator and he missed it.
again, he was going up against Fuego, right? So I think he was giving the kid a chance to get booked, and he was, but I think it was finally to the point where like, okay, you suck at this, you're gone, and he finally puts it away. Because yeah, there was one that it looked like he gave it to him almost. So yeah, that's a good point. I just wanted to mention, I'm just looking through our notes here. We come back to the Halloween party, and Griff Garrison's trying to get in, and they're like, oh, yeah, of course, Jungle Boy can come in. And we get back to that joke, and they're all up on Jungle Boy. You know, Jungle Boy was a high prospect of the Dark Order at one point, and finally someone just calls it, oh, man, great Griff Garrison costume. That made me pop pretty hard. He just looks like, what? Okay. He just goes with it.
He just goes with it.
Yeah, that was good.
We had a return of the Broken Brilliance doing the
right, yes.
What do they call that segment? I just had it and I lost it. It's like terms of what I'm talking about. Our viewers know what we're talking about. Yeah. And Eddie Kingston cuts a promo going back to that bit, and he cuts it on a plastic pumpkin, which of course he knocks it out of the.
For sure. He's always good. He's always good in these little impromptu promo sessions that they like to throw at him. And I gotta believe that they're actually surprising him. Like, he looks like he's doing other things. I think he was in the middle of maybe shooting an actual promo, maybe for Dark or for TNT's Instagram or something like that. And then they're just like, hey, Eddie, cut a promo on this plastic pumpkin pail. And he's like, all right, I got it. And he just cuts one right from the hip. It's super good. He's so talented in that. But yeah, it was It's just kind of a par for the course, like I said before. Episode of BTE wasn't the greatest, wasn't the worst, but it was entertaining nonetheless. So good stuff coming from the guys and being the elite. But let's shift our attention over to AEW Dark, another gargantuan episode of Dark. It was 2.5 hours long with 15 matches. I mean, I don't even want to run through all these matches. What were some of the highlights for you on this week's episode of Dark?
Am I wrong? But was there one point where Dark was like around 4 matches? Like,
Sometimes even less.
yeah. I don't know. That I really feel like they're pushing to maybe get like another show on TV, right?
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is not kind of an audition type thing, just data analysis, data gathering so that they can present it to TNT and maybe get a second show in the week. But if that's what they're doing, cool. I get it. I understand. But if that second show is going to be 2.5 hours long, like, I don't know. That's too much content. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the highlights. The first highlight that I have here is the Hikaru Shida taking on Layla Hirsch. Layla making her AEW debut, and they build her in here from Russia, which brought the likes of Miro out to commentary because he heard there was a Russian fighting. I thought this match really, really well done.
Yeah, I mean, we've been harsh. We've been really harsh and very strict in our judgment when it comes to Hikaru Shida and the matches that she's been producing as of late. This is how you book a Hikaru Shida match. This was booked perfectly. It was booked to her strengths. They got an opponent in there. I'm curious if they've worked together before. It sounds like, doing a little bit of research, that Layla Hirsch has been one of the hottest stars in the indie circuit as of late over the last couple of years. So I wonder if they've run into each other before. But it showed if they did, because these two worked really well together. It was very much a technical heavy match. There was a lot of chain wrestling, being that Layla Hirsch is a former Olympic amateur wrestling athlete. And yeah, this was perfectly booked. Made Hikaru Shida look really strong. It made the newcomer Layla look really good. It even gets her a shot on Dynamite on this week's episode that we'll talk about a little bit later. It was amazing. It was perfect, and they need to do this more for Hikaru Shida, because lately they've been really hurting her character.
Yeah, I agree with all that, and I think what Layla does is make some of these regulars here look bad
Mm-hmm.
in the matches they had with Sheeta. Like, I'm thinking the Big Swole match with Sheeta, like that was not even near this at all. So yeah, to keep this girl around, I think she's really going to do well.
Yeah, I agree. Another really high spot of the entire episode, probably the spot of the episode, was the finish to the Jurassic Express versus Danny Limelight and the debuting Jersey Muscle tag team. It was a 6-man tag. The finish to this match was unreal. I've never seen it before. I've seen it 40 times since, and I still don't know how they pulled this off. But essentially, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus have Marco Stunt by the arms and legs. They fucking rock him a couple times, and they just toss him, and he lands into a Canadian destroyer on Danny Limelight. And I mean, if you can't picture what I just said, search it on YouTube. Go to AEW Dark, episode 58. Fast forward to the
Put a
Jurassic
link to it on
Express
the website.
Yeah, for sure, because this is insane. This is absolutely insane.
I feel like if there's an award for wrestling move of the year. This definitely has to be one of the candidates for the winner. Uh, I mean, we've seen so many Canadian destroyers. We've been talking about how it's as common as a headlock these days,
Mhm.
but this put a brand new spin on it. And yeah, you can't not have your jaw drop when you watch this move. Fantastic, well done by Marco Stunt. I feel like Danny Limelight was probably the one that made this move look as spectacular as it could, because this could have looked like crap.
I think this is all Danny Limelight, actually, because he's kind of responsible for getting his head in the right spot, catching Marco's legs, and then doing the backflip. You know what I mean? Like, this is all Danny Limelight, and it makes me wonder if they haven't, if Danny's an SCU guy, you know, PWG, if they haven't all been in the ring before and have done this spot before, because they pulled it off absolutely perfect. It looks amazing. Nothing slipped. It was locked in. It was tight. It was unreal. It's unbelievable until you see it.
Yeah. And this was the finisher?
This was the finish. Marco Stunt rolls him up 1, 2, 3. So
Nice.
devastating. That's 2 Canadian destroyers for pins in the last 2 shows, if we go back to Ray Phoenix on Pentagon. So the Canadian destroyer is getting its power back slowly but surely.
The other big thing in this episode was the Cutler Avalon 3 match, which, now that I'm looking at the match card, how is this not the main event?
I think this is an absolute travesty. I think this is a slap in the face to the work that Cutler and Avalon have done since February, since this feud started, even beforehand on BTE, if you want to count all that. It's just an absolute slap in the face. It's an absolute burial, if I can be as truthful as I can. This definitely deserved to be the buy-in match for Full Gear next Saturday. If not that, definitely on Dynamite. And if not that, it definitely should have been the main event of Dark. And yeah, absolute burial of these two.
Yeah, and I mean, on BT, we didn't talk about this when we talked about BT, but there was a bit where Brandon was talking to some of the talent about this
Right.
match, and the Sammy portion of that segment I thought was the most interesting, because Sammy's like, well, yeah, I'm looking forward to this match. It's gonna be, at Full Gear. And Brandon's like, well, no, it's not. Oh, well, it's gonna be on the buy-in for Full Gear. And, well, no, it's not. Well, it's got to be on the go home show, for Dynamite. Yeah, no, it's not. It's on Dark. And Sammy's just like,
Yeah.
how can that be? Like, this is so wrong. So yeah, it's on Dark, and then they're tucked in the middle of the card.
Mm-hmm.
Which, now that they don't have any links here, like, this could be a match that someone could have missed. It's too bad.
It is
But
too bad.
what'd you think of the match overall?
The match itself was pretty lackluster, and is that because of this whole situation? I'm already going into this match kind of sour that I got to tune in to YouTube on a Tuesday night just to watch it. Maybe that's all it was, but I feel like their other matches were more impressive. Is it because it was a DQ match? I think there was a part of me that still hoped that this would go to a time limit draw in some way, even though they mentioned that there was no time limit. When I saw that the Dark was 2.5 hours, I'm like, they might do it. They might get to 20 minutes and call it quits. Someone can come out and say something, but we didn't get that. I think the only thing that really saved this match was the fact that the Young Bucks do come out. And, this was a callback to being the Elite as well. Something we didn't mention, that the Young Bucks kind of mentioned, like, hey, we got to get going. and they just kind of walk away off camera, and you're like, oh, I wonder where they're going. Well, this is where they were going. They come out, they finally show their support for their buddy Brandon, and that's exactly what he needs as he reverses an avalanche German suplex or something off the top rope and rolls it up. What were your thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I thought about the same. That this could have been better. I felt like their first match was probably better than this one. And for a no DQ match, they did a couple of more high risk things, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it was more maybe about the story because what we get from this is Peter Avalon's now by himself. It really seems like Leva Bates is leaving him. She slaps him in the face. She doesn't even finish watching the match. And yeah, it's kind of left unknown as to, where Peter Avalon's going to land. It seems like Brandon Cutler's got his buddies back. And yeah, but the match really just didn't come off.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Leva Bates, if we can just fast forward really fast to Dynamite, she was in the crowd as always with her table and stack of books and stuff like that. No Peter Avalon to be found, and she's set up on the babyface side of the crowd. I thought that was an interesting little touch. Someone's definitely thinking about these kind of things if it's not Leva herself. So I think that's really cool. She walks out on Peter Avalon on Dark. She's sitting alone on the other side of the arena on Dynamite. It's really well done. I'm interested to see where this story goes between the three of them. I still think that they'll end up together again. The Initiative. It was a top selling T-shirt for a couple weeks, so you can't just
Right.
look away from that. I believe Peter Avalon's going to be on his hands and knees, begging and pleading, please, baby, please. Is that a song? Those sound like lyrics.
I'm thinking right now, just things are going through my mind as you're talking. That I wonder if this is a way that Peter can strip himself of the librarian gimmick, and maybe he goes to the Cutler way, where he's kind of like this wizard, you know, D&D type kind of character, and they become whatever the heck the Initiative is supposed to be about.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, so that's pretty much all we really needed to talk about when it comes to AEW Dark. You can catch it on YouTube. Just search for AEW Dark. It's there for you guys. This week's power rankings, as we move along with the show here, did we have anything new? Do we even need to talk about it this week?
I think we should always talk about it, but yeah, not a lot to really mention here. All the rankings are pretty much the same as last week. The only change we have is in the men's division. Last week, Sean Spears broke the top 5. We gassed this up that we thought, Sean deserved to be in the top 5, but as fast as he got onto the list, he is now off the list. Darby Allin is now back in the top 5. Sean Spears out. And this kind of makes sense considering that Darby will have the match at Full Gear. And at this point, we don't know if Sean Spears is going to be wrestling at Full Gear. So, yeah, that's the only change in the rankings. Still have all of our champions, number 1 contenders, still the same.
All right, well, let's move right along. Let's get into Wednesday Night Dynamite, October 28th, 2020, Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. This was a really good show, especially considering we had like 3 weeks in a row where they were pay-per-view caliber cards. On paper, these could have been pay-per-views 3 weeks in a row. When you kind of looked at this one on paper, yeah, the match caliber really wasn't, comparative to that, but I think everybody just really pulled it together this week. Everything flowed really well for the most part. There were some lackluster spots that we'll talk about here in a bit. But this was a really good show, and it was really keeping up with the level of intensity that the other 3 cards in the month gave us. So I was really thoroughly enjoyed this episode of Dynamite.
Yeah, so did I. Can't wait to talk about it.
So this show starts off with a little backstage bit between MJF and Sammy Guevara. Sammy kind of, you know, bursts into a conversation that MJF is having with Wardlow, and they do their little bit. I found this spot a little unnecessary. It's nothing we haven't heard before, and it's nothing that we weren't going to hear again during the town hall segment of this episode a little bit later on in the night. So, I mean, I don't really get why they threw this in here. To me, it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, it just came off really awkward. I had personally liked that the show started with, you know, I don't know if we want to call it a bit, but something other than just, you know, a guy coming to the ring. Um, the awkward thing for me was the crowd noise.
Right.
So the guys are talking, and then the crowd pops, and we're not seeing anything to pop about on the screen. I was just very, very confused by it. And the crowd noise seemed to be not real. Like it seemed to be kind of inserted into the show. So, did you catch that? Did it seem awkward to you?
Yeah, like I think AEW has always pumped in some crowd noise to some extent. Even kind of 3 weeks into the into the pandemic era run of everything, we knew that the jobbers and stuff were ringside and stuff like that, and there was kind of no way they could make that rumbling that we could hear, but it was so turned down that it kind of got lost in the mix of the whole show. But this week it's like it was just turned up a little too much to where it was very, very noticeable. But then again, I didn't notice it for the rest of the episode either. So yeah, maybe the small crowd that they had in Daly's place was popping for the ring crew, putting turnbuckles on, if that's what they were doing right at that moment. I don't know, but
Right.
yeah, no, there's definitely something awkward there at the beginning of the episode here.
Maybe the production guy is just sick of hearing Austin Gunn.
That's probably true too, because
Yeah.
he's always cranked up to 11, that kid. So but from here, this is going right into Wardlow's entrance. It was interesting that he turned MJF away once they got out onto the stage. MJF obliges and kind of goes back down the tunnel, and Wardlow taking on Hangman Page. This is round 2 of the World Title Eliminator Tournament. I just have to start off by saying this was match of the night. This was match of the month for me. This is quite possibly match of the year if it wasn't for, say the parking lot brawl. But Dynamite match of the year candidate for sure. I mean, we can take it to a vote, but this match was booked, performed, shot to absolute perfection. Everything about this match was good. The story they told, the psychology, everything. Knocked out of the park.
I mean, I can't disagree with that. I have no reason to disagree with that at all. I've mentioned on the show before that I am a Wardlow fan. I feel like they need to give this kid a chance, and when he does, he's just gonna break out and could be a champion someday for sure. I could definitely see it. And Hangman does his Hangman thing, and you're right. They told the story that needed to be told, even though we all knew what the outcome of this match was going to be, and it would completely be nonsensical if Wardlow was to win this. But even in that, the performance these guys put in made this match, like you say, one of the best of the year.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't checked it out, try to find it somewhere. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Hangman goes over. It took 2 or 3 buckshot lariats, but Hangman Page advancing to the finals of the world title eliminator tournament. He sits there and waits for the winner of the Kenny Omega Penta El Cerro M match later on in the night. So we'll get to that soon enough. From here, we go into a promo with champion Jon Moxley. Talking more about this I Quit match leading into Full Gear against Eddie Kingston. I mean, we've covered Jon Moxley promos in the past. We say the same things every week. This is exactly the same thing. He kills it. He's the best at this. There's a different tone this time. So we're seeing his range as a character. They kind of caught up with him training, and it looks like an MMA gym of some sort. So he's kind of winded and out of breath, and he's really, putting some emphasis that, he's working hard for this match. He's not taking it lightly. Everything about this promo just kills it. It was a great extension of this story.
Yeah, I don't personally know if Moxley and Kingston are actually friends or knew each other, or were in the indies together. But that's kind of the story they're telling here, is that they're old friends, and Moxley left all the guys to go to, the promised land, or I forget how Kingston puts it.
The land of the entertainers.
Oh, right, yeah. And Eddie Kingston is very, very bitter about this. They have me believing it. I totally believe that they knew each other, and this is a personal. I know Moxley's had other matches that it was personal, but this one seems to be more personal. And I really hope that when we see this match come Full Gear, that we're going to continue that it's going to get even more personal.
I don't see how it doesn't. From here, we get the other side of the coin. We get the other side of the story. Eddie Kingston comes out. He's got Butcher and Blade and the Bunny flanking him. He grabs the microphone coming off a commercial break, and he cuts a quick promo. The emphasis of his promo is that he thinks Jon Moxley's a coward. He's scared. He's a coward for not showing up on the show. The champion should be on the show every week. But he's at home with his pretty wife and all this, and really, putting forward that kind of character trait of Moxley, I guess you can say. Again, Eddie Kingston, arguably one of the best talkers in the business right now. He's definitely the best in the business up to this point. Yeah. What did you think of Eddie Kingston on the mic at this point?
Yeah, again, mentioning John's wife, adding that personal element to it. I had this idea that they should have Renee at Full Gear. And I know that there's, a non-compete clause, and maybe they can't show her, but at least comms maybe saying it, or them showing a silhouette of her, or just showing a woman with blonde hair, just something that is going to tell the fans that she's there. And because this is an I Quit match, they're going to have a microphone. I'm guessing Bryce Remsburg is going to be walking around with his little microphone there, and Eddie's going to grab it.
You know what the sad thing? I know. I'm sorry. You said the magic word. I mean, I can't hear Bryce Remsburg without breaking up. But the sad thing is that you're probably right. It probably will be Bryce Remsburg being the ref of this match. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'm everything that these two have done in the past month leading up to this I Quit match, it's the best built story at this point. It's the most I'm invested in. It's the most I'm excited for. I believe it has every potential to be match of the night. It's gonna be a dirty one. It's gonna be hard hitting. There will be blood. You know what I mean? Like this is gonna be a barn burner.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then this takes us into our next match where we have Eddie Kingston taking on Matt Sydal. And I thought this was an interesting
Yeah,
matchup.
I like how Eddie Kingston tied his promo into this matchup. And he's like, now I got to take care of business. Matt Sydal tried to steal my spotlight in the casino battle royal, and now he needs to pay for it. So, something to that effect. So that was a really cool way to tie everything in together. And I mean, it was a decent match. It wasn't, it's not Hangman versus Wardlow caliber, but I mean, this was a really solid TV match. It makes Eddie look really strong going into his match against John Moxley at Full Gear. Again, they just did everything perfectly here. Exactly what they needed to do. Let's talk about the finish here, though, because that's probably the most important part.
Yeah, so Kingston wins this match with a bulldog choke, which we all know is John Moxley's submission move. So there's one sort of tip in your hat at Moxley saying, "Hey, whatever you can do, I can do just as well." And he doesn't let go of the choke. So Bunny gets in the ring. She's got the mic, and he tells Sydal, "I want to hear you say I quit." Sydal says it as he's tapping furiously to get out of the choke. And commentary does really well here to say this is directly sending a message to John Moxley that this is what is going to happen on November 7th.
Yeah, definitely. It was a cool ending. Like I said, it makes Eddie look really strong going into this matchup at Full Gear. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, poor Matt Sydal. Start AEW. I feel like this is probably going to be Joey Janela, but since he's not around, Matt Sydal raised his hand. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. Matt Sydal is the Kofi Kingston of AEW right now.
Okay, yeah, that's a good. Good
Sorry, I should clarify. The Kofi Kingston of like 2015. From here, we move into this sit down interview with the Young Bucks and FTR. This segment was a little awkward. They were in separate rooms. It looked like FTR was maybe halfway around the world joining us via satellite. Excalibur was in like casual clothing. It looked like he was in t-shirt and gym shorts, sitting next to the Young Bucks. I didn't really care for that. You're a commentator. You wear your blazer at the desk. You should be wearing your blazer while you're doing interviews. But maybe they were kind of going for a more casual, laid-back feel. It is what it is, but this segment really doesn't do anything to get me more hyped, or any more hyped, I should say, for this match. If anything, I'm less excited about this match because of this interview. Yeah, I don't know. This one fell short on my ears.
Yeah, I have to agree. This really reminds me of Vanilla. Yeah, this is every interview with Brock Lesnar. They were never in the same room, right? He was always somewhere else, and I don't know, like, yeah, you're right. Like, it did not further the story at all, and then in the end, well, we find out about this stipulation that's been added to the match.
Yes.
Tell us about the stipulation and what were your thoughts?
So at near the end, FTR seems to finally kind of have enough of the Young Bucks bullshit, and they walk off camera with Tully, and they're out of there. Matt Jackson then goes into the stipulation that's been added to the match, and I mean they pull a Cody here. They say if these titles are so important to us that if we don't win them on November 7th, we will never challenge for them again. And it's got to be 1 year to the day, damn near, from that promo that Cody gave us leading into his match against Chris Jericho at Full Gear last year. So I'm very, very confused. I'm actually quite mad that this is the direction they're going. I don't get it. It's not needed. It's bullshit. It's the best way I can describe it. It's a bullshit stipulation. It's a sad excuse to try to get us excited for this match, and it actually has done the complete opposite for me personally.
Yeah, that was my initial reaction to this as well. Is we've seen it before. You could have put more into thinking of a different idea. I really feel like I'm less excited about this match now because the Young Bucks have to win this. I mean, they've been touting AEW as being the best tag team wrestling in all of the wrestling industry, but then the Young Bucks are going to be taken out of that picture. It makes absolutely no sense. So yeah, I'm just left less excited about this. I only have one idea that could possibly save this. So humor me on this idea.
Of course.
And that is with the Young Bucks kind of turning heel here, could they lose this match? FTR, pointing their finger, laughing like, we'll never have to worry about you again, only for them to pull out the EVP card and say, yeah, I know we said it, but, we're actually going to strip you of the title and take it ourselves, or do wrestle for it again at some other time. And that might get them a lot of heat, which is what they'd want to be doing as heels.
That's an interesting idea. And I think it's definitely possible. If Days of Our Lives can bring people back from the dead, why can't the Young Bucks go back against their word? I mean, I think that would be a pretty cool moment. But the fact of the matter is that they didn't need to they didn't need to handcuff themselves storyline wise by putting this stipulation on it. But I'm pretty much locked in with my prediction for that match, and the Young Bucks are going to win this match. That's all there is to it. I don't see it going any other way. That's all there is.
Yeah.
So coming out of this, we get into the Inner Circle Town Hall meeting. This was teased last week. I had no idea what they were going to do with this. It really turned out to be just they were really trying to play into this United States presidential election, trying to get some of that hype. This was very much a rehash of the debate that Jericho had with Orange Cassidy last month, or a few months ago, I should say. I don't know. It just didn't come off the way I was hoping. And after having kind of the crappy segment beforehand and now this, I am completely tuned out of this episode at this point. I believe I even turned my PlayStation on. I was getting ready to start doing some kickflips and some grinds and Tony Hawk. It totally took me out of the episode. This between these two segments was almost 20 minutes. It was kind of bad.
Yeah. The what I didn't get about it is they actually didn't do a town hall meeting. So
Right.
a town hall meeting is typically you have the leader of an organization, like your town mayor or or whatnot, and then you have the people that are part of that organization who question sort of the direction, ask questions about where that organization is headed. So if anyone was going to be asking questions here, you would think that would have been the members of Inner Circle. But instead, we had Luchasaurus, Britt Baker, a brief showing of Peter Avalon, and Mr. Eric B asking questions, which turned out to be Mr. Bischoff.
Yeah, I think it was
So,
really cool that they brought him back.
Yeah, for sure. And it didn't get ruined this time, right?
Yeah, it didn't get ruined. There was no NXT spies who just appeared on Dark the week before to ruin the big surprise. But yeah, it was cool. That was probably the most entertaining part of the whole segment. But what this town hall meeting does is that it leads us into another match announced for Full Gear next Saturday, November 7th. We're going to see Chris Jericho versus MJF. It's a match that we've basically wanted to see since the beginning of AEW. We're finally going to get it. If MJF can beat Le Champion, the demo god, the million viewer man, he will be able to join Inner Circle. I think it's kind of an interesting take to where this kind of feud, air quotes, has gone. It kind of almost reinforces my idea that maybe this is the exit of Chris Jericho out of the Inner Circle and more of an MJF takeover. So as crappy as this segment was, I'm actually really excited for this matchup coming up to Full Gear with MJF and Chris Jericho.
Yeah, and this is what FTR and Young Bucks needed to do, was leave us in a place where, you know what, this could go either way. I don't really know if this is going to be MJF or this is Jericho. I could see both ways working out and, multiple outcomes coming out of it. So yeah, I'm like you. I'm totally pumped for MJF and Jericho.
They definitely opened up the options. I mean, we mentioned it a couple weeks ago on the show that I forget what the exact moment was. I think it was with the jackets, but there was a moment there where everything kind of got blew wide open to where I don't know if this is Sammy leaving Inner Circle or maybe this is Jericho, and it seems that's the way it's gonna be. Like, who knows what's gonna happen? So I'm excited. From here we get a Taz video promo. Team Taz, he's there. He's flanked by the Fugazi champion Brian Cage and Absolute Ricky Starks. This just reinforcing their attention to Will Hobbs. This is really stemming to how Dark ended last on Tuesday. Darby Allin was attacked after his match. Will Hobbs was there for the save. Of course, a few weeks ago, Taz had invited Will Hobbs into Team Taz. Will Hobbs has not given him an answer, and Taz wants an answer, basically. And I can't help but feel like maybe we're going to get a filmed segment during Full Gear that'll maybe pay this off. But or maybe an impromptu match with Will Hobbs again, maybe. We'll see how that all goes. But I mean, I might be over Team Taz at this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure I was ever with Team Taz. I would have liked Brian Cage to kind of be on his own, because I feel like the guy can talk. He doesn't need Taz, and he's a big guy, and he's got personality. If you've ever listened to him on any of the wrestling podcasts, so I don't know. They got to do something with these guys. We just every now and then get to hear from them, and it's not enough.
For sure. From there, we get into, I mean, just more low spots of the episode. But Cody versus Orange Cassidy for the TNT Championship. This is the second championship match in a couple weeks. The stipulation was added that it would be a lumberjack match. And did we get a lumberjack match, would you say?
I would not say that. Other than the fact we had some wrestlers on the outside of the ring, I don't think one part of this was a lumberjack match. At least from the perspective of the lumberjack matches we've seen in the past.
For sure.
They really had no part of the match at all.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. The match itself, however, was decent. I don't think this match was necessary to have whatsoever. I liked that things ended in a time limit draw last week. Cody gets to keep the championship. Orange Cassidy looking strong. This is technically Orange Cassidy's third TNT championship title opportunity in the last month, as he lost to Brody Lee just before Cody came back there, right? So I didn't think they needed to book this match at all. I really believe, much like the cage match against Wardlow last year, or near the end of the year last year, this was all just a ploy so Cody could do one big spot. And that's why it was a lumberjack match. And that's why they needed 15 guys on the outside of the ring, is so that they could catch them doing this superplex off the rope to the outside. I honestly think this whole match was booked the way it was for that spot. Great spot, looked great, made me pop, but is that necessary?
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. It was probably for that. And I'll even include for the ending as well. So in the ending here we get Dark Order with the interrupt. John Silver gets the pump kick to Cassidy, which helps Cody get the win here. So yeah, like these lumberjacks had really nothing to do with the match other than catching the boys on this, big move, and then the interrupt by Dark Order at the end. Other than that, this wasn't a lumberjack match to me.
Yeah, definitely not. What this does bring us, though, is that after the match, there's a big brawl in the ring with all the lumberjacks. Kind of the only ones left standing are Gun Club and Dark Order. Cody from the tunnel kind of gives a thumbs up and a nod to the Gun Club, and we're gonna see a match next week that we'll talk about a little bit later. But Gun Club basically getting their opportunity on Dynamite finally, after being 7-0 on Dark in the last 3 or 4 months. So you got to be excited about that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what these guys can do. They have a lot of personality. We know what Billy Gunn can do, and Austin's just a clown. And yeah, give him a run and see how it goes. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it next week.
Yeah, good stuff. So yeah, Cody retains. Gun Club helps out Cody. There may be some new members of the Nightmare family. We'll see how that all plays out. Leading out of this, best friends walking down the hallway. They're looking a little bit sore. They were part of that big brawl outside of the ring, or in the ring during the end of that match. They run into Miro and Kip, and they're trying to apologize, I guess, in a way, to blaming the best friends for destroying Kip's arcade game a couple weeks ago. Penelope Ford bringing in a present dressed as Orange Cassidy, I thought was a nice little touch, but they're really trying to portray that they feel bad for putting all the blame on best friends, and they want to make it up to them. Of course, it's all just a facade, and the beatdown happens, and Miro, I'll never forgive you. And yeah, it was a cool little spot. What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I've never seen Orange Cassidy. He looks so good, and you're right. It was just it was all just a ruse, as Archer would say, and we get the attack. So I'm expecting now that this is now, if it hasn't already been officially, a feud between best friends. And uh, does Miro and Kip have a name yet?
The gamer jabrones.
Is that
Nah, that is not official. That's just something I made up. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that all plays out. From here, we get into kind of what ended up being a makeup match. If we can rewind to last week's episode, we were told that on this week's episode of Dynamite, we were going to get Tay Conti versus Abaddon. This was a match that I was very, very excited about. I'm a huge Abaddon fan. Tay Conti is great. She's been really, really stellar in her performances on AEW this past few months. So I was really excited about this match. From what I've heard, this match was pre-taped, as was most of this Dynamite, last week, after last week's live episode of Dynamite. And unfortunately, there was a tragic injury. Maybe tragic's too strong of a word, but there was an injury. Abaddon suffered an injury. Instead of showing that match and showing her get injured and whatnot, they decided to scrap the match from the show. They made it up with this match coming up. And it's interesting that it is the newly crowned NWA Women's World Champion, Serena Deeb, defending that NWA championship against the newcomer Layla Hirsch. It was I think it's really interesting that they were able to scrap a pre-taped match and fill it in with what I can only assume is a live shot match, being that she won the title literally Tuesday night, jumped on a plane and flew to Jacksonville to, film this match for Dynamite. It was flawlessly done. I feel like the show did not lose its flow at all. So big props to the AEW production crew on that one. But let's talk about this match, Serena Deeb versus Layla Hirsch. I'm starting to think maybe Layla is the common factor in having a great match with Kurashida and then absolutely killing it here with NWA champion Serena Deeb. This was an absolutely lights out match.
Yeah, we've seen Serena in the last month here, and like, she is a very good technical wrestler. She has she's the Chris Jericho of the women's division, that she has 1,001 moves in her arsenal, and she showed it here. And Layla took her move for move, and it looked really, really good. We get the finish here. Serena Deeb does a single leg Boston Crab, which
Even
out of
more
all,
Jericho-esque.
yeah, this is not one you see every episode. Yeah, really good match, really good for both of these ladies. Again, Cody, I know you listen to the show. You gotta sign this Layla Hirsch. She's the real deal.
Yeah, it was a great match. Very well done. It was really this match got me back in to the show. I would like I said, I was kind of tuned out up to this point, but yeah, this got me back into it. It was a great women's match. And staying in the women's division, we move on to a backstage interview with Alex Marvez and AEW champion Hikaru Shida, and basically Shida challenging Nyla Rose out of nowhere for a match at Full Gear. Again, we've said this before. It's no insult to Shida and her ability to speak English. I personally think it's more impactful if she would have just spoken Japanese. Say what you need to say, get some emotion behind it, end it with Full Gear in English, and we know what you're talking about. We don't have to speak or understand Japanese to know what just happened. All you have to say is Nyla Rose, Japanese sentence, full gear. We know what you said, and I think it would be more impactful. It would be better off for the emotional side of things that we know where she's coming from. So, but what do you
Yeah,
think of this matchup?
I wonder if this is her wanting to do the English.
I'm sure it's part of it.
It's well known that she's putting a lot of effort into learning English. It's just when she delivers these promos in English, you can tell she's very much concentrating on using the right words and the right grammar and whatnot, and the emotions lost from it, like you
Yeah.
said. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting match considering we don't have any story. Like you said, this was kind of just out of the blue. Nyla Rose is the number one contender, so on paper this match makes sense. But man, I didn't even remember Nyla Rose was still in the company. Like we've really not seen her. I think she's been on the in the she's been a spectator along with Vicky Guerrero, but that whole I can't even remember what they called themselves, the Twisted Sisters or something like that. Like all that was like presented to us and then was gone. So yeah, this is gonna be an interesting match.
If they started coming out with huge perms and makeup on, I would lose my shit. We're not gonna take it.
Yeah, it's not Twisted Sisters, but it's something Sisters, I think. Can't remember.
Vicious sisters or something like that. I can't remember either. Um, yeah. So Sheeta versus Rose for the AEW Championship. That'll be. I mean, we've seen it before. We know exactly how it's gonna go, probably. But yeah, we'll see. From here, we get Sean Spears coming out. He's finally getting his chance to debut, or not debut, but return to Dynamite. And I was super excited about this. I was pumped that he was in the power rankings last week. He's on Dynamite. He's going up against another jobber, but this match, if that's what you wish to call it, was over and done with before I could go grab another beer. Like, what do you think of the way they booked this? Like, I mean, it makes Sean look really strong and stuff like that, but I think it overall in the long run kind of hurts his character.
Yeah, like they need to give this guy a program. We need to see him regularly and not just, backstage or on dark. Especially when I feel like I don't know if you want to call it a gimmick or his, whole thing with this glove and his turnaround from being this comical wrestler to now being super serious and, kicking ass and taking names. And then they give him this, which is like he spent a whole 4 minutes on the screen. I don't know. I guess it's maybe the beginning of a story. But it wasn't really about this match, was it? It was all about what happened at the end.
Yeah, they're really tying into this yeah, if you could call it a feud starting, but these issues with Scorpio Sky that have blossomed on Dark over the past couple weeks. Sky was hiding in a mascot costume, comes into the ring. Sean Spears is gonna kind of bully this kid in the mascot uniform a little bit, but the head comes off. It's Scorpio Sky. Scorpio lands a TKO on Sean Spears, and Sean Spears and Tully Blanchard get out of there as fast as possible. But we're gonna see a payoff to this short-lived story next week on Dynamite. So there is that. Hopefully, maybe they try to drag this out a little bit longer. I think this could be a good feud, but if this is a one and done, this next week's match, the winner is the winner kind of thing, I think it ends up just hurting whoever loses. It's kind of ends up being a burial. So they got to be very careful in how they book this match next week, and I'm interested to see how they do that. But I'm worried one of these like spectacular performers is going to get buried a little bit, and I'm assuming it's going to be Sean Spears.
Right. And now that I'm thinking about this, why wasn't this on Dark, and why wasn't Avalon Cutler here?
Right.
Maybe it was a time thing, but like really, this is Dynamite worthy, and that wasn't. I think that's a bad call.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that statement. Speaking of next week's Dynamite, this is the spot in the show where they let us know what's going to happen next week on Dynamite. We're going to see Chris Jericho on commentary. We are going to have Sammy Guevara and Ortiz versus MJF and Wardlow. Miro versus Trent, which is a good starting point for this upcoming feud against the best friends, Miro and Kip. I think that'll be an awesome way to start. I can only assume that maybe after Full Gear, we're going to see a Chucky versus Kip match, which I think will be great. All leading up to a nice payoff with an awesome tag match. Excited about this feud. Sean Spears versus Scorpio Sky, like we mentioned before. Cody joining the Gun Club versus Dark Order's Silver, Colt Cabana, and 10. And very exciting face-to-face between AEW champion Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. This is going to be a huge moment on the Go Home show leading into Full Gear's I Quit match. Can't wait to see how this is booked. My prediction is that Eddie's going to have his whole crew with him. Lunch Brothers, Butcher and the Blade, the Bunny on the side. Jon Moxley's going to be out there by himself. Ain't scared of nothing. Just to show that he's not the coward that Kingston thinks he is. I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped for this match coming up. It's all I can think about. The rest of the show doesn't really matter.
Right. Yeah. Like on paper, this show is not going to be probably as good as the last few here, match wise. But yeah, this Moxley Kingston face to face, I think can really solidify what we're going to see here on Full Gear. I'm fully expecting John to get a complete ass whooping, and that's gonna have that even more bad blood that's there right now. So yeah, looking forward to that part.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. This leads us into our main event of the evening. We got Penta El Zero M versus Kenny Omega. This is the other round 2 matchup of the World Title Eliminator Tournament. Originally, this was supposed to be Kenny versus Phoenix. Phoenix had beat Penta last week in the tournament, but they wrote in, which I believe is a kayfabe injury, to Phoenix from that arm breaker that Penta put on him. He had to forfeit his spot, gave it to his brother Penta, and we're getting a rematch from All In 2018. What did you think of this matchup?
Yeah, I mean the matchup is good. We've seen it before, and I remember that match. It was fantastic, especially at that time when I really didn't know who Penta was, and you get this guy who looks this way, and yeah, really good match. I was expecting much the same. I was a bit sad though that this was not Ray Phoenix. And as our viewers know, I am a Ray Phoenix lover. Phrasing. I mean, I admire his work, and I was really looking forward to that. This was going to be the second sort of best scenario, and I don't know. I have to say, I didn't get what I was expecting. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, definitely didn't live up to the hype I had built up in my mind. The match started off really awkwardly. Kenny still had his shirt on. They were kind of just talking for the first like almost 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. You have pointed out in the past that Kenny keeping his shirt on is a show of disrespect to his opponent, that he doesn't actually find them worthy. So there was that aspect of it all. There was also the big reveal that Kenny does still have the AAA Mega World Championship that he won off of Phoenix. So there was that big reveal. I don't think that's necessary in this spot. I think this is just Kenny's new character trying to be a dick. Um, but started off really awkwardly, but it got really good in the middle.
Yes, yes. And as you were talking there, I was trying to think about the difference between their first meeting that we saw them in and this one. And I think the big difference is that first match was not about story. It was about just pure wrestling.
Right.
And I think that's what I was expecting to see here was just a exhibition of really good wrestling. But Kenny doing his story here, and I, I don't know, maybe it's just me, just got in the way of what it was, but they did end up getting it back. This was became a hard hitting match. Some huge slaps, huge chops, some just really well done performed moves, and yeah, I got back into it. Then we hit a commercial break, which yeah, totally took me out of it. I think I remember you saying, you know, I don't even want to watch this anymore. You were kind of out of it. So take us into the ending here. What did you think about the ending, and where does it take us to?
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, we go to a commercial break, and I mean, the whole pace of the match just stops, especially for us up here in Canada. We didn't get to see the picture in picture, which I know you're not even a fan of. Probably rather have just commercials, but it really did halter the momentum that this match was building up. And you know what? I honestly, at this point, 4 days later, can't even remember how this match ends. I remember there was a lot of one winged angel attempts. They were really teasing that. Penta really working his way out of it, countering almost every one, and then finally getting it on there and getting the 1, 2, 3 for Kenny Omega here. It was the outcome that we expected. I don't think either of us really gave Penta and or Phoenix a chance leading into this matchup, but it's exactly what we thought it was going to be. We're going to see Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page at Full Gear for this number one contendership, and I am excited to see what they're going to do next week to really bring this home on the Go Home show, and how are we going to build this matchup on what we've already created. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, we just talked about how we're so excited to see the Moxley Kingston face to face. I wonder if it would have been better if we had an Omega Hangman Page face to face here and try to further that story more, because we haven't really seen them on the show together in the last few weeks. They just kind of in their own entities. So yeah, a promo or something here. So
That's a
we'll
good
see if we
point.
get that the go home show.
That's a good point. They really did pull back the reins here on the Hangman Kenny feud. Hangman was having those singles matches shortly after All Out, and Kenny was there on commentary. And then the announcements made for the tournament. Kenny gets announced. It hurts Hangman's feelings. Hangman does his announcement. It kind of gets Kenny scared. And then the last two weeks, there's been really nothing more to that. A little bit more if you watch BTE, but in the realm of Dynamite, we haven't really seen anything. So I think this feud definitely needs something. Since we're already kind of doing an in-ring face-to-face with Moxley and Kingston, maybe this needs to just have like them running into each other randomly in the back and having an awkward situation, maybe even just an awkward silence, maybe an awkward stare down. I think it's just going to be awkward either way, but it'll be just enough to really put forth that there's tension between these two, and this matchup's going to be great.
Yeah, you every time you describe something, it gets me thinking like, they need to be in the back, and Omega needs to like turn the corner and bump Hangman, spills his drink on his shirt or something like that. And then, you know, uh Hangman reacts, Kenny jumps, and yeah, maybe they don't even have to say anything, but at least we're getting something that is showing some feelings towards one another right now. They're working alone, and I don't know that it's working. I'm not as excited as I probably should be about this match.
Well, hopefully that changes next week on Dynamite. It was a pretty decent week this week. Dark was way too long. There was the kind of the low point in the middle of this week's Dynamite, but overall, this was a really good, content heavy week of AEW wrestling. I always enjoy covering it, good or bad. Just want to remind our listeners out there that you can catch us on wherever you get your podcasts from: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and any others. Make sure to subscribe wherever that platform is that you choose. Leave us a 5-star rating if it allows it. It'll really help out the channel a lot. Also reminding everybody that we are cutting YouTube out of our repertoire. It's probably the last time I will mention it. But we had some good content up there. I'll probably leave it up. So if you wanted to go check that out, definitely go check out some of our old shows. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you all next week. Don't forget, go fuck yourself, Cornet.
Peace.